Hi everybody, welcome back to the PTC podcast here today with Mark Doherty, another lad from back home, the old country, and Tomás Young, who's also from the old country. How you doing, James? How you doing, Mark?
I'm great, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. You're an idol around here. Your name is spoken in the ether of nutrition. Tomás is a big fan. I know you guys were on the same course together. Is that how you know each other?
Yeah, Chris introduced me to Mark about 2 years ago when we were doing the IOPN together.
Yeah. We're about that.
And then I was one of Mark's clients as well. Yeah, for a little while.
Oh, that's the secret before your
No,
your pink shirt to your
that was
to
well
now.
that was well before. That was about 3 years.
That's
about
where he
4
got a
years
six
ago.
pack.
Yeah.
And his wife.
Then he got married.
Yeah, then it went all downhill.
Yeah.
You basically owe him everything.
Yes, absolutely.
No wonder the name is
so famous.
held in, such high esteem. Do you want to, Mark, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself? How you are now the nutrition guy?
Okay, cool. So basically, my father put me in a gym at the age of 15. I was super sporty growing up, did every type of sport you can think of, from football, martial arts, long distance running. If there was a sport, I did it. Then my father put me in a gym at 15 for lifting weights. And over the space of 2 years, the age I was 17, I was pretty like a little geek, reading absolutely everything. So within 2 years, I knew a lot about nutrition, a lot about training, and I was very interested in the bodybuilding route. And then as things progressed, I just at 17 got my first fitness qualification and started working right away in the PT industry, which was 30 years ago. So then it progressed. I just did qualification upon qualification. My nutrition route started with a guy called Ben Comer, Body Type Nutrition. Ben's very well known in the UK. Back then he was super well known. I did his first course. I got the highest in the class, and then I became on and worked for his company. I was their body composition specialist because at the time I was still working with bodybuilders right from the start. So I was brought on to basically help anybody with contest prep, and also he had an education course as well. So I taught part of the like peak week for bodybuilding. Fat loss supplements was one of the things I taught on his education course. But what I got at the time was a lot of females coming in who were put on 800 calorie diets. This was way back, maybe 15 years ago. Anyway, things progressed on. I did more and more nutrition qualifications, Mac Nutrition, which is an excellent course. And I did a lot of body composition stuff as well, or body biomechanics, because I'm still interested in the training side. I flew to America to do the N1 course. Then I did the RTS. I'm doing an RTS in April. I did the IOPN, which is a phenomenal course, as Thomas will say. Phenomenal course. And then I decided last year, maybe I'll just back off now. I've done enough study. I don't need to learn anything else in nutrition. But I realized when I stopped studying, maybe it's my age, my brain just comes to mush. And it's the point where, like, I've learned so much in the last 30 years. I think my brain just keeps the stuff I need to apply and then gets rid of the more in-depth stuff. I don't know if that's a good thing. It depends who I'm talking to. It depends who I'm dealing with, what type of client. So I decided that I actually want to go back and continue studying nutrition. So I just do it myself. So I am hunting to do a PhD. So I'm in talks. I'll not say too much about it yet in case it all falls through. But I just want to do it. I just feel I have to go deep into nutrition. And to be honest, it's something I always wanted to do, but I feel social media is full of absolute rubbish now. And certain people are either going to believe what you know now, and even with PhD, they still won't believe you if they believe some clown on social media. And there's so many of them. And science is getting absolutely destroyed, from cherry-picked evidence through to biased opinions. It's just getting crazy out there.
Why do you reckon you went into nutrition? Was it just purely like down the bodybuilding route, get the body composition, and then you just lit a spark in you and you just went?
Yeah. So I actually, it's funny enough because I feel like I specialised in both training and nutrition. And that's why I went on still do biomechanics course, and that's why I'm going to do another biomechanics course in April. But yes, it just was my cup of tea, and I was from a fairly young age around some top bodybuilders in Ireland, and I was learning, and I was just good at picking it up, and I was really good at maths in school. I did A-level maths and did quite well, so I think that's why I'm good with macros and counting, and that's the type of thinker I am, and I was just good at it. So the first gym I started in, this was way before there was personal trainers, and the first gym I started in, me and my best buddy, and the way it worked, this is crazy, but PTs don't get this now. They do their qualification and they come out and they're lucky if they work with 5 or 6 people in a year, whereas the gym I worked in, I worked say for 5-6 hours. Each hour I had a client come in. I had to measure them. I had to take their blood pressure. I had to take them around the program. I had to write them a quick nutrition plan, and they would have came back 4 weeks later to get reassessed. So I would have worked through 100 clients. So I got a lot of experience just seeing what works, what doesn't. And no matter what anybody says, right, you've got if we ask what is it being evidence-based. And evidence-based for me is 3 things. Is number 1, knowing the current scientific literature and keeping up to date with that. And number 2 is anecdotal evidence, is your experience. And the more and more people you work with, and over the last 30 years, I don't think there is one situation or scenario that I haven't worked with. It's funny when I go on a call with someone, oh, when you hear this, you won't believe what and I go, I work with about 100 of you. You know, like from bodybuilders to professional athletes to top amateurs to different sports. Every sport I've probably worked with throughout the years, and then from general population body composition right through to general population health. And they always talk about you've got a scope of practice, but the problem is when someone comes to me and goes, Mark, I've got such and such, but I've worked with a dietitian, I've been with doctors, and I'm not going to turn someone away. I'm going to help them to my best of ability. Now, I do work within the scope of practice. Now, if I work with a client and I look at the blood work and say, look, you need to see an endocrinologist. Obviously, if someone's injured, they'll see a physio. But, yeah. So I think that's most of my background.
So in all those years of your studies, you're talking about quite a lot, like quite a lot of years. Is it all teaching you the same stuff? Is it teaching you new stuff? Are you going down different avenues? Like, are you following a keto course one time and then a sports performance course, or is it just nutrition and like you're learning things you either didn't know or you're learning the newer way of doing it? Like, well, how's there so much to learn?
That's a good question. So as far as the science goes, there's a lot of scientific literature and things change. But to be honest, like, I could walk away now from study. I could have walked. I didn't even have to do the IOPN. What I picked up and learned was enough to get phenomenal results with clients through body composition or performance athletes. I just learned it. But I think there's always a little bit of icing on the cake. And then I think, like, if you're a professional, if you have a passion for what you do, you always have to keep up to date. So why would someone come with you? Like, for example, some people come to me, oh, my doctor told me this 10 or 15, or my doctor told me this, and maybe it's just something they picked up 10 or 15 years ago. But the thing is people say, you're not a doctor, and I say, look, probably about 10 of my current clients are doctors, and some are very specialists, and some will say, right, Mark, we don't really learn a lot in nutrition. So I'll give an example. The Mac Nutrition, if any PT wants to do nutrition, I'm going to tell them to do Mac Nutrition, because Mac Nutrition covers a very in-depth range from evidence-based nutrition, and it goes into special populations like diabetes, cholesterol, and stuff like that. And it also covers a little bit about performance athletes. But the IOPN covers a lot more. So did I really learn stuff? It was more like perfecting my skills. And will I learn stuff from why do I want to do a PhD? It's probably, it's more for me now. It's not for, right, I've got this qualification, that qualification. It's more just I've got a passion for it and I have to do it. It's like my wife's a singer. She has to sing. And I have to train, same thing.
So from you're talking all of that experience that you've got, like coaching people, with the doctors, are they clients of yours for they're learning from you, or you're helping them with their health and their nutrition plans? They're eating the foods, or it's like a lesson?
Yeah, so I work with a range of clients on a different scale. With these doctors and clients, it's more so with helping them with their nutrition, helping them improve body composition, not for their learning. I work with a lot of coaches, and I mentor a lot of coaches more for their learning. So the thing is number one, to keep them in shape, because they want to stay in shape, give them accountability and support. But number two is a lot of coaches will message, right, Mark, I've got this client who's got a nutritional issue. What will I do? So it just depends on the client. The doctors and that clientele are more so they just want to get in shape, stay in shape. And they're pretty open-minded to actually admit, right, we don't know everything about nutrition. We learn this. And to be honest, if we look at it, and what I'd like to class myself as a nutritional scientist, this is why I want to keep doing that road. And like, some people just don't understand that if you want to learn nutrition, you got to listen to nutritional scientists. Look at Alan Oregon, look at Elaine Norton, Martin McDonald. Like, these are the people we should be listening to. Not a lot of these influencers on social media who come out with a lot of terrible information.
Yeah, even on that, like, after working with Mark, I learned a lot from Mark, and I still pop into his DMs all the time, asking him questions for advice on how to deal with certain things and with certain clients that I haven't had experience with. So learning from other people and getting a coach and experiencing those other things is a really good way for coaches to keep learning and keep progressing. I feel like.
Yeah, and it's good, like, because I love seeing this.
Yeah.
So if a coach comes to me and says, right, Mark, I want to learn, like, I love that, because I know they're passionate. And I know that, like, the reason we're passionate in what we do is because we do want to help others at the end of the day. That's our job. And if we look at nutrition and health and training, what are we actually doing? We're actually helping people improve their health, live longer. They've much better quality of life. So
there's also a big difference between when you're helping a coach and you're helping general public, like a general everyday person who doesn't know this stuff. You have to trim it right down to almost the layman's terms, talk in layman's terms, and you give that same speech over and over again. When it's someone like you guys are having a conversation, you can go deep into the vault of the intricacies of it, and you can start, pulling out. I sometimes get carried away when I'm talking to other coaches, because you're talking about the injury it is, the pain, the whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, have I gone too far? Where have I gone with this? Are you with me? Have I lost you? Like,
yeah, I feel like the way you talk to a certain client is really important. Obviously, if I talk to a coach, I'm going to go really in depth, so they have a deep understanding. But if we're like talking, for example, social media, we're trying to, like, Instagram, we've got a 90-second reel to break down in-depth topics into something that. And I always believe, is it Albert Einstein says it, if you can't explain it to a 4-year-old, I don't know.
Yeah, you can't explain it to a 4-year-old. You don't know.
Yeah,
well
you don't know what you're
yourself.
talking about. So at the end of the day, you want to break this down, and the client goes, so for example, I did a video the other day on insulin resistance and insulin spikes doesn't stop you losing body fat and stuff. But I had to break it down and go, right, boom. Because so many of my clients go, I want to prevent insulin spikes, and going, right, why? Right, because I read this and go, okay. And this whole fad stuff of like intermittent fasting, and then like the thing is if a client is training, right? So we all work with clients who's training. They're either doing weight training 3 times a week, they're doing cardio. So they're training like an athlete, whether they're competing or not, so they still should feel like an athlete. So would I ever have an athlete on intermittent fasting? Absolutely not. Now, the 3 things to being evidence-based, as I was said, was your knowledge on science, your anecdotal knowledge was your experience. And the reason why that's so important is because the scientific studies might have a certain group, but we know, like, not everybody fits into these groups.
Yeah.
And then the third most important thing is preference of client. So back to the client goes, I want to turn vegan. Is that really a preference, or is that something they just read? So what you're trying to explain to them is, look, you can still eat meat and be super healthy and just as healthy as somebody. Okay, I like meat. Okay, well, we can keep it in your diet. You know, you can still have breakfast and be as healthy as someone that, oh, really? I love breakfast, so why are you cutting it out?
Yeah.
Right? So it's all like...
They've watched one video or one documentary and they're like,
On Netflix.
this
Oh my God.
this has to be my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How much of it, though, is psychological? Because that's like where I think I tapped out of nutrition back in the day. Firstly, I remember being in the gym. I played rugby forever, so I knew all the machines, did my qualification and certification things, so I had the basics, all that done. I'm like, I'm fresh in the gym, it's 3 months, whatever. People are asking me for nutrition advice. I remember standing talking to someone saying, just eat your leafy greens, and because I hadn't got a clue. Like, I'd absolutely no idea. I'm just trying to bluff my way out of this chat and go do the pool test, you know. Absolutely hated it. And then that's kind of where you learn what you like, what you don't like at the start of your career, which way you're going to go. And whatever way I went down the injury rehab. And then I joke about this now. Like, I appreciate the incredible importance of nutrition and diet. It's a massive pillar. It's one of our pillars of the whole business here. But it's just not for me. I can't do it. I've read some books. I can talk to people like over a pint. But when it comes to now I need help, I'm thinking, if it was that easy, we could all just go on Google and go food plan for a 55-year-old lady who works 9 to 5, control print. All right, cool. Cheers. It's obviously not that easy. You'll get your food plan, but it's not that easy. And for me, I just didn't have any interest in unpacking that puzzle and migrating through what these people's have, why they have sugar cravings at night time. Why do they go to food first thing in the morning? Why have they been told? But why they believe in this person on social media? I'm like, no, talk to Tomás.
Yeah, so the thing is when you deal with any client as a nutritionist, you gotta look at physiological and psychological. And to be honest, probably psychological anything is 80%, physiological is 20. So the thing is you're trying to convince that person in their mind. We know that mindset far outweighs everything. We know there's a placebo effect to certain things, but as an example of physiological, so I have about 1 million case studies in my head I can talk about. Physiological, I had a guy who owns a gym in Ireland, this is very recently. He came, says, Mark, I'm a binge eater, I'm binging at night. And I'm going, right, let me see your nutrition plan. It was almost like intermittent fasting in the morning, and you looked at the amount of performance. He was under fueling. And then physiological, we could go really deep in about liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, liver glycogen depletes overnight. So you're looking going, right, he's not replenishing liver glycogen, then he's going in, boom. So we know that I know that his binging at night was physiological. He thought it was psychological.
Right. No, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And within 3 days, this guy came back, oh, Mark, you're good, what are you doing? And it just because physiologically I knew what he was doing wrong.
So what did you do? What you
So I just fueled him. I put like lots of extra carbs in. And the funny thing is, he freaked out when he seen the diet. I had him eating a large breakfast. I'm a huge fan of nutrient timing, like pre-training, post-training nutrition for everybody if they train. I still class everybody. So if someone comes to me, they're probably coming to me initially to improve body composition, lose fat, gain muscle, just be healthier. So I still think it's really important to have carbs pre and post training, look at recovery. I still think for a lot of people, having plenty of carbs during the day and having enough food in each meal prevents sugar craving, because you're trying to control blood sugar cravings throughout the day. So a lot of people, when you look at the psychological, when you start explaining and teaching them this, you just can't say, right, do this. You have to be able to educate them on what you're doing, why you're doing it, why their body's fluctuating in water. And then when they start learning the science, they go, oh, okay. And then they psychologically start coming over, and then you're trying to develop a better relationship with food, which is a huge one now, because then people are doing keto, and then people are coming off the back of keto, rebounding. Oh, I can't eat carbs again. I keep getting weight on. I did a video about this. It's coming out on Instagram soon. Then intermittent fasting, and they're wondering why they're starving at night. They might last for 2 or 3 months, and then so what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve psychological behavior, because we know habits and behaviors are really important for adhering to a goal. And most importantly for me, right, when anybody comes to me, I tell them there's 2 most important things. People want to come for physique, but number 1 is health. And optimal health means physiological and psychological health. Having good relationship with food is in there. And Number 2 is performance, making sure someone performs well. And for me, it's not about the before and after photo, it's the after.
Yeah.
So if you can't educate this client on how to maintain results, because we know everybody can do a diet, but we know the percentage of diet fails. Diet fails because people don't have the education. And the crazy thing about this is so many people come, oh, Mark, I worked with this nutritionist and done this. And so what did you do after the diet? What? It was like, it's like, where do these people learn their stuff? Where are they getting their qualifications? What are they learning? So, yeah.
And with the, in terms of the, as you said, he was binging in the evening. That's definitely something that I'm trying to get across to a lot of our members. Is the fueling and the ghrelin build up over the day, the fueling, having your breakfast before you come in to train. And when they do it, they notice a big difference, not only in their training, the performance, but their energy throughout the day.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, and they'll do it for a few weeks and then they'll stop.
Yeah.
It's trying to get them to keep doing it and make it a habit and make it a routine.
Yeah, and the thing about that is some people think, oh, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to develop a habit. That's not true. We know it's like it could take on average up to 66 days. There was a study by Layla, maybe. So we know it takes a lot longer. So what we got to do is, as fitness professionals, as support, make someone accountable until they do it long enough.
Yeah.
So then they're doing it just in their sleep. They're waking up, they're feeling great. They're losing body fat, they're maintaining. They go on a holiday and they come back and go, Mark, I didn't put any weight on. Because you develop good habits and behaviors. You don't need to track food all the time. They learn how to be mindful around that. So for me, there's a whole lot of like parts of the puzzle. And the way I look at it is, if someone comes to me and they want to learn, it doesn't matter who they are. I want to just imagine they're put on the planet Earth, and I'm going to have to learn them everything in my head, from from tracking food, flexible dieting, mindful eating, all the tools in the box that they can use from time to time. And the reason I'm saying this is because I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, an elite CrossFit athlete came to me, right, Mark, I want to lose fat and perform great. Okay, I'll write you a nutrition plan or a meal plan to give you an example of what I would do, which would have in your nutrition. No, just give me macros. I'm amazing at it. Okay, give her macros. 7 days later, she came back and goes, oh, Mark, I feel like shit. I'm not performing well. I'm not sleeping well. So, okay, I'll write you a meal plan with the exact same macros within a week, 10 days. Mark, what the hell? Like, the people don't. So I never, ever assume that someone knows what they're doing until I take them through my process.
What you said something a few minutes ago, which I think, so when I'm talking to people in the gym, we're like, look, one of the things we'll have to get to is the nutrition, and like, my food is okay. I say 99% of people whisper that sentence. My food is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not too bad. It's like, all right. Then when you start to dig into it, I'm like, all right, there's loads of room for improvement here. But again, just talk to Tomás because he loves it. To you, what does a bad relationship with food look like for somebody? Someone who may be listening to this, or somebody who just, they're not quite in the lane of, oh shit, I actually need to change. They're over here going, oh no, I'm grand.
Yeah. That's probably one of the most common things you see is underfueling, under eating all week, and then smashing the calories. So it's almost like a diet binge mentality. And even though they think they don't have it, a lot of them do have it when you look deep in. And then a lot don't know how to just structure their food during the day, like having carbs pre and post training. And a huge one is, it's not just about, a lot of times we talk about calories in, calories out, but a lot of time we talk about food quality as well. So because we're trying to go back to what's the top of that triad, which is health. So we're talking about food quality because we want micronutrients for health. We want fiber, which we know helps sustain blood sugar. We know helps with cholesterol. So when we look at this, they don't 99, and it's crazy, right? You think this is general population? You'd be shocked at the amount of coaches I've worked with, and do their nutrition.
Bet, yeah.
Oh my God! And these are people who are putting stuff on social media and Instagram. Oh my God! And then I work with them and go, shit, these people don't know. So general population, and the problem then is the bombardment, and that's the exact word I'd use, with absolute misinformation, myths that's spread now on social media, and people don't know what to do. So they're trying this, trying that, and never getting any success. And And the relationship with food is just when they go on a diet, they lose fat, they put the fat back on, and then they try another one. And keto is a perfect example. So someone goes on keto, they lose, and this is a lot of coaches and female coaches who I've worked with in the industry in the last few years. Some Muppets have put them on keto and everything else, which we'll talk about soon. They've lost weight. Then they have put the weight back on, and they can never get it right how to get the carbohydrates back in. So their relationship with food is absolutely shocking.
I think a lot of people now are looking at Instagram and they're seeing all the bodybuilders and all the coaches promoting body recomposition. What would you say is the best approach to body recomposition? Is it lose all the body fat first and then go into a build phase, or would you go lose a bit of body fat, build, lose, build, and go into that
So
approach?
what is recomposition first?
So if you have a very much overweight client and they want to get in the best shape of their life, give them abs, it's getting them down in body fat and building muscle essentially. So they can see, you can see the muscle, you can see the abs.
Okay.
Essentially.
Yeah. So if we're talking from general population, say someone's just starting from scratch. So obviously now I have a company, I've got a team of coaches who work for me. So I wanted to develop my own system, right? What can these coaches follow that will be my system, get people results? And I had to sit down and put pen to paper and write what's the best approach. So firstly is you never want to take a client straight into a fat loss phase because you don't know their maintenance calories, right? And then they can come back and they don't know what they're eating and stuff like that. So what I do is my first phase is called metabolic optimization. So what I want to do is, right, get a client, and all we need to do is get a starting point. It's like training someone. Get a starting point. Let's see what they can squat. Let's see what they can lift and progress from there. Same with nutrition. So metabolic optimization, what you're trying to do is get calories closer to maintenance, get them into habits and behaviors of eating protein every 4 hours, eating enough food so you know, right, this is enough to fuel that client. And what you get in metabolic optimization is body recomposition. So there's a difference between body recomposition, fat loss, and muscle gain. Body recomposition, if you have a client and you put them close to maintenance and then you start exercising them, they may initially lose body fat and add a little bit of lean muscle tissue. Now, if you take a client and look at their past dieting history, they may have developed metabolic adaptation because of the way they've been eating before you. Hence why you wouldn't put them straight in, because they've got this metabolic adaptation.
So what does that mean?
So metabolic adaptation is, say you start going in lower calories, your body's going to adapt to these lower calories and become quite efficient. Okay. And then you've got hormonal changes such as ghrelin, the hunger hormone goes up, leptin, the hunger tells you full goes down. So the client come to you with pretty negative, or you have to assume that's the way it is. So the metabolic optimization, and trust me, and this is a big one, I've had professional athletes come to me in this phase, metabolic adaptation, foot on the pedal with their training, pushing too hard and underfueling. So what I want to do in metabolic optimization is pull the training back a little bit, fuel, and then the client goes, wow, I feel amazing, wow, I sleep, wow, what's happening, my body looks better, and then they start to film habits and behaviors. Then you could run that 2 to 4 weeks depending on what the client goes. But then back to psychological reason. If you keep a client, the longer you keep a client at, the better. But psychologically, if you don't push a client and start getting results faster, you'll lose them. Fact.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is push them in the fat loss phase then when you got a couple of weeks over. So I always find that the point is around 2 weeks, and then you got to push them in the fat loss phase.
Yeah.
My opinion is that you should bring a client down in body fat, lost body fat first. And there's certain ways it's very important that training matches nutrition. So therefore, what are people doing? They're pushing people into HIIT cardio circuits on low-calorie diets or low-carb diets. And we know you oxidize more carbohydrates when you do that type of training, so you want higher carbs in. So if a client's in body fat phase, we want to incorporate maybe low intensity steady state. We want to incorporate weight training. And we also will have to utilize things like diet breaks, right? And a lot of nutritionists don't do this. And the thing is if you're a nutritionist and you put a client in a fat loss phase and that client binges or leads to binge, and then you fail as a nutritionist, in my opinion, you're not that good, because you've just messed them up psychologically. You're just put. So the reason for diet breaks, what a diet break is you put a client back on maintenance. So if you do a 2-week optimization phase, you sort of know, right, this is their maintenance calories. So through that diet, you can put them on maintenance calories for 3 days up to 2 weeks, which gives them a psychological break and may help some hormonal stuff.
So diet break is not a cheat day?
No. So this is really important to remember. Every single one of my clients who are on a fat loss phase will have 1 day a week on maintenance calories. It's not a cheat day. It's flexible. And what we're trying to do there is give them a maintenance calories for 1 day. We're trying to give them a protein to hit. We're trying to let them flexible, because what I'm trying to do is start the educational right away for 1 day on how you can start tracking your own food. And if they know, right, the 1 day I can be flexible and track my own food, then that start to put them into a good way of getting them in the flexible diet.
So for 6 days, when you say track your own food for 1 day, for 6 days they're following your thing like a Bible to the T, ... And then the 7th day they've got free reign, but they have to record it.
Yeah.
And then they have to show you what it was. Got
but
it.
over the 7 day period, with the 6 low days a month, it's still a deficit. Yeah. It's still, so fat loss doesn't happen in 1 day, it happens over 7 days. We're putting them in a deficit over the 7 day period. And then eventually, like, you want to train that client so they can be flexible on these low calories. Now, in the fat loss phase, you have diet breaks. So diet breaks you might incorporate. If you notice someone has diet fatigue, you know someone's going to break, they just might need a break. And there's a lot of studies, like a Matador study has people dieting 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So they had 2 groups, I'll explain it quickly. 2 groups dieting, 1 group dieted for 16 weeks straight, another group did 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. The 2 weeks on was a deficit of 30%, and the 2 weeks was a diet break. The group that did the 2 on, 2 off over the 16 weeks lost more fat. We probably know that was because of adherence, right? Simple as. This is where people fail. They lost adherence to the plan. If we have a female, and this is really important, I'll tell all my females, when it's a female's time of month, and there's so much literature read on this, right? But everybody's individual and say, Mark, what do you think about females' menstrual cycle? All my females are different, but what tends to happen on a high percentage time, they have more cravings for 3 to 5 days around that time of month, so they have a diet break. So they're not dieting the full month, right? Then if they have a diet, the whole reason for a diet break is they don't binge. If you go and eat everything, but if you control it and you know, right, I'm allowed, a female's allowed 2,000 calories, I have to track it, they feel quite content. Then when you go really more in-depth into a plan, we talk about carb cycling and stuff. Like carb cycling, meaning having a few days low, 1 day high, a few days low, physiologically isn't any better than a linear approach. But psychologically, back to psychological, it might be psychologically easier, meaning you could put a client on 2 days lower and top them up with carbs 2 days lower. For me, when you have leaner individuals, and I've been talking about general population, not advanced body composition clients. So the leaner the client is, the more chance they have to lose muscle. The whole purpose with carb cycling is you may go 2 or 3 days low, and then you're refilling glycogen in that 3rd day. And it's the same with athletes. If I were a triathlon, you know yourself, you have to periodize your nutrition around that type of training. If they're doing a zone 2, or if they're doing a sprint session, or at the weekend, if they've got a 3-hour cycle, what do you do the day before? You have to carb. So you have to, I believe you have to be very OCD. As a coach, you have to be OCD. And this isn't picking up, all right, the textbooks say this. This is being OCD at seeing what this actual individual needs that's different in every other individual. And it's almost helping this client develop a blueprint that works for them. Do you like carbs before bed? Does carbs help you sleep? Yeah, great. It might not work for someone. So there's not a universal rule book to follow. You as a coach have to pick this stuff up. And just from years and years of learning, this is why I'm saying experience is really important as well as scientific research. And this is why a lot of coaches work with me, because they come and go, right, Mark, I know the science already, but I'm seeing things that aren't matching up. They're not adding up with clients. What would you do? And it's just like a second pair of eyes, nor about advice. And then that coach, as you pick up experience, you learn and learn and learn. And it's just a cycle. You help more coaches come through the industry.
How do you overcome or work with someone who just will not track their calories?
So there's a part of nutrition called mindful eating and portion control. Now, it's funny because I never really get that. If that is the issue, I'll write meal plans, or so I'll give you an example. I've got a guy and he wants to get really lean. He won't cook, he won't track, so I just write the plan.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, but I write the plan. I literally tell him, right, go buy your food and order fitness feeds this meal, go and buy a protein shake and banana this meal, right? But if you've got, so the thing is, I never have clients. I believe clients that come say I never track is because you just haven't educated them properly. If you start with a meal plan and all this talk, oh, you're not allowed to, you're not meant to do meal plans, you can give a as a nutritionist, a non-prescripted example plan, which is totally fine. And like, there's some great dietitians out there, but there's some dietitians that put meal plans together and they're absolutely shocking, right? So the thing is, a lot of dietitians who do the sports study, they do the sports performance, are really good because they're learning human body. So back to my clients will know they don't have to track forever. There's periods of mindful eating. So when you go on holiday, you're not going to track food. So what is mindful eating? So losing fat or maintaining isn't just about this is your calories, this is your macros. It's also about developing strategies. So for example, if a client's going, right, Mark, I have a big meal on Friday night, what do I do? And my golden rule is you eat protein every 4 hours, no matter what. You don't starve, you eat protein.
No matter what the goal.
No matter what, you have protein every 4, because we know protein isn't just for muscle building. It's the most important macronutrient for your immune function, your cells, everything. It's your building blocks. We need protein. So that and also improves satiety and also keeps people full.
And would you let them have a shake or eat?
Preference.
Right.
There is absolutely no reason not to include shakes. Shakes are an amazing way. So 95% of my clients will have shakes or include shakes at some form. I would rather have a client, if they're missing a meal, have a shake and still get their protein. And there's so much research. So I'll give an example. I have a million examples. So I'll give a guy came up and says, Mark, I watched the Netflix program. I want to take vegan shakes. And I'm going, right, so you know that your cholesterol's slightly high, your LDL's high, I read his blood work. Yeah. And I'm going, and you know that the research shows that whey protein can decrease LDL, the bad cholesterol. Really? I'm going back to whey protein, because we know dairy is anti-inflammatory. So dairy gets such a bad whack on social media saying it's inflammatory. Again, back to crappy science.
Only if you're allergic.
Exactly, intolerance or allergic.
Yeah.
So how much do you reckon the social media is got everyone's attention? Everyone's staring at it all half the day. You see people, guys and girls, who have amazing physiques, and obviously there's the Photoshop and that kind of cheating side of things. But how do you think that the performance enhancing strategies are diluting the good knowledge on nutrition?
I think it's not about diluting the strategies and what we do to lose fat. What it is giving general population clients an unrealistic target to go for. So you see this before and after, like 12 weeks, and you go, holy shit. But if you're using anabolic substances, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, you're using clenbuterol, everything can speed up. Now, my background, and I tell my clients, when I started when I started bodybuilding, I took whatever I had to take to compete. And I was very lucky because I had a doctor who I trained with was older. And his mentality is my mentality. Mark, I don't condone it, but I'm going to look after your health. I'm going to help you read blood work. I'm going to help you do this and that. So when we have an adult and an adult approaches you and says, right, I'm going to do it no matter what, or you better just
Did you get that? Yeah.
A million times over.
Yeah.
So what I try and do firstly is encourage or tell them, look, you don't actually need it. How about we try do it without anything? But you're going to get certain athletes or certain bodybuilders, no matter what you say, I'm going to do. So for me, I have a responsibility for my knowledge and years of learning. My mistakes, trust me, oh my God, there's some things I could look back in. There's some regrets I have from using certain products that I wish I hadn't did. So now I believe that I can help someone being healthier in their mind, in their body, just by giving them advice. Now, I believe that 99% of people, you can talk out of it, and I've done it over and over and over. If you just want a beach body, it's easy to get. Oh, okay, we have to be OCD in nutrition, training, and you have to explain that. You have to explain that client, make them aware, right, you've got your individual genetics. It might take longer to do, so you just start them in the process. The problem now with social media, and the problem with coaches in general, is they're all just whacking stuff in, getting fast results, and they think they know everything about nutrition thing, and they're just lacking so much. So it's like the whole coaching, the whole Instagram is completely watered down.
Is it that easy to get results on performance enhancing whatever? Like,
So the thing is yes, it can significantly increase and speed up results, but everybody has, like, I could stand 10 people in the room and they're all using stuff, and you probably only think one was on it.
really, yeah?
Yeah, because you've got responders, non-responders to anything we do. And the thing is there's so many people using it, and they think using that is, you don't have to follow the nutrition, you get away with stuff. Maybe you can, but it's still down. You need your nutrition. You need a proper nutrition and proper training. Now, when we look at the population, it's more like young guys in their 20s, 30s. Yeah. So a lot of my clientele now, I'm starting to push more 20, 35s, 40s. And when we talk about, there's a huge difference in someone using PEDs and someone needing TRT.
Right, okay.
So huge difference. So TRT is if someone's testosterone levels are really low.
And this is male and female, or
yeah, both.
Yeah.
Both. But they would go through an endocrinologist. So if I'm going to look at a person's blood work, and I've got a 40-year-old CEO, he's stressed out, he's we'll first start a nutritional intervention. I always believe in starting nutritional intervention to improve blood work. And what you do is run that for 6 weeks, get the bloods done again, and have a look at the hormones. Same with thyroid. And then you go, right, something's not right here. They're not changing the way they should. And then you go, right, I think you should go and see an endocrinologist. And I've sort of built up a network since I've been here. And for me, like, it's hard to find good.
Yeah.
It's hard to find good trainers. 100%. It's hard to find good doctors. Yeah, and I have found it. I know, like, if someone said to me, Mark, name 20 coaches you would recommend, I could tell you out of how many have we got? Thousands and thousands here. Someone says, Mark, I need a good endocrinologist. So they would go to an endocrinologist. Now, low testosterone can negatively impact your health, like depression, moods, diabetes, obesity. So we know that a person who is with an endocrinologist, and if they need medication to improve their health, why not do that to improve your health? So this is a whole different ball game than someone looking to use PhDs or PEDs just for vanity reasons.
How common or prevalent is it in the female training?
So this is crazy because female coaches come into the industry and they're very if they go in these certain gyms, they're very, what's the word?
Susceptible?
Yes, and they're just unaware of the side effects. And what I've got in the last 2 years alone, I probably worked with about 5 female coaches. Mark, I need to lose fat, and then when I look in, they used PEDs because, number one, they were told it's a faster way to get results. They weren't told about the side effects. So one of the things I looked at is their blood work, and their relationship with food is usually terrible because they're also put on chicken and broccoli diet, and we know you don't need that. And the problem is I look and see what you'll find with females. You get estrogen and progesterone, you get an imbalance between this, and this hormonal lag will need medication to get these females back on the wagon, basically. And the problem is it's not just about them losing body fat, it's about how it's affecting their minds. I've been around so many females in the last 30 years, around competitors, stuff like this, who've taken something. I can see what happens to females taking stuff. And mentally it's not a good thing. So anyway, these female coaches are unaware what's actually happened to their hormones. So my first thing is, right, the best way for you to recover is, number one, you got to go to an endocrinologist, and it's usually the progesterone is low, so endocrinologists put them in progesterone cream. And it's really important that, again, nutrition should match training, but also nutrition should match what you're doing with your hormones. So obviously if someone's trying to increase their their hormones, or if a guy's got low testosterone and he's just under fueling, maybe he just needs to increase his fats, need to increase his fuel, and everything improves. Same with females. So when you're starting hormone replacement or when you're starting a medication to improve your hormones, you need to be making sure you're eating and you're not in a fat loss phase. So everything's really important. Then over time, these females will recover quite well, and then hopefully they'll never go back. They were just so naive.
And is it a type of steroid or type of thing they're taking, or is it dose? Is it just it's too
usually,
much of it?
For females, right? There's different steroids. There's testosterone, which is your main male hormone, and everything is a derivative of testosterone. So basically,
All steroids.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're all steroids. All females are.
And they're all testosterone. So all steroids are a type of testosterone.
Yeah, they're made in some
Synthesized,
form
Okay.
off the back of that.
Okay.
So basically, one of the most common ones for females called Anavar, and it's an oral steroid. You take a tablet now. We know that oral steroids have a negative impact on liver profile as well. But you have to remember, like,
Why is that? Why does it affect the liver?
it could cause long-term liver damage if you stay on a product
Processed,
too long.
kind of it's like
Yeah,
it's
it's like
processed in the
alcohol.
liver, and it's
It's
right,
like if
right,
you
right.
whack alcohol, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
okay.
But alcohol's probably worse, by the way. But anyway, we could talk about that in a
Bit
minute.
of booze and some Anavar at the weekend.
And they do that. But the problem is that the females are unaware that this is actually still a male hormone you're taking, and it's just going to absolutely mess up your hormones. Now, males can recover, but males still have a lag period, so they need to make sure what they do after is really important if they do take it, which I don't recommend, I don't condone, but again, is like, if they go in the gym, they're going to say, I don't care what Mark said, I'm going to take it, and some muppet is going to put them on like a bucket load of stuff. So back to what we were talking about earlier, this guy, when I wanted to get away from that side of stuff and just work with general population, a guy pulled a sheet of paper out of his pocket and asked me, what's this list like? And it was enough to kill a horse. Basically,
Yeah, wow.
crazy. So that was the point in my career. I realized, right, I have just like the doctor who worked with me many, many years ago, who was my friend, you still got a point, you've got a responsibility to help
Yeah.
people health no matter
100%.
what. You have to give advice. At the end of the day, it's advice saying, look, I don't recommend you take that. Firstly, I don't condone it. Firstly, I don't think you take anything. But what if? And I said, well, you could probably get away with a quarter of that. Really.
Right, yeah.
And I have worked with people who's been pretty high-level competitors who have used stuff, and they've been on a quarter of the amount of stuff that half the people running around are on.
So let's say you've got celebrity.
Yeah.
Movie.
Yeah.
What's his name? Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
He's just come off the back of some drug dealing movie.
Yeah.
And now he wants to get back into Avengers 7.
Yeah.
He's going to take it.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that there must be a protocol that he can do it safely?
Yeah.
So that exists. It's not just all like doom and gloom.
So basically, right, if you look at testosterone replacement therapy, if you go in to get TRT, your bloods are monitored right through the whole process. So basically what happens and how it happens is when you take a synthetic product, your natural shuts down. But you've got a physiological range, right? You've got a lower end and an upper end. And your physiological range is in that. Now, if you push slightly above the physiological range into super physiological, then you're going to get response. So if these people have their doctors, which they do, is just give them enough to get good response, but not too much to cause crazy side effects.
Right. So there's like a little minimum effective dose range.
So
yeah.
a lot of the top prep coaches and bodybuilding coaches these days start guys a lot.
That's what we need,
lower
Tommy.
stuff.
That's what we need. We'll get this after.
We'll talk
Sort
about
that
that
out
later.
after.
You walk around through.
Yeah. Blame
Everybody
Mark.
wonder.
He gave me this big long list. of
Summer's
stuff.
coming.
So basically, what's happening
Summer,
is
yeah.
obviously when you take any synthetic stuff, your natural production will shut down. So then after, what you do is tends to use it's called PCT, post-cycle therapy, which is things like HCG, Clomid, to kickstart your natural system back into play. But what's happening these days is there's no such thing anymore as coming off and doing a PCT. Guys will use a cycle, super physiological levels. Then they'll use what's called a cruise. They'll go back on TRT dose. A TRT dose is testosterone between 125 to 200 milligrams daily to keep you in that physiological range. if you run a cruise and stay in that physiological range, that allows for health markers to come back into play. So guys now are running a cycle for 12 weeks, they're cruising for 8, cycle for 12, they're never coming off.
So
Right.
because I used to live with a young bodybuilder, and we were mid early 20s, like young lads starting out. Him and his mates used to do it. So I was in the room with the jargon being talked about, but I didn't understand. I've heard of PCTs before. I know to my mind, you go on your cycle, you come off it, and you have to take whatever they are to get you back on track. You're saying now this cruising thing is a different strategy, and they just keep taking it. They just keep going.
So in theory, right, is if you're going to go cycle cruise, because if you're going to use a cycle, say for example 12 weeks, and if you're going to use another cycle 8 weeks later or 10 weeks later, there's no point in PCTing. So the reason being is someone came to me, right, Mark, I've been using stuff for 5 years and I want to get off it for good. Then I'm going to PCT, because remember, PCT is just a kickstart. So you might have to wait 4 weeks after the cycle. You might then go PCT, which is only kickstarting your natural production. You might need then another 2 or 3 months for your natural production to go up. So if someone is using a cycle, PCTing, but going back on a cycle, they're never allowing. So now a cruise is the fact that being on a low dose of testosterone while you're off cycle allows you to maintain the results and get your blood markers back in the healthy range, and then go in another cycle. In theory, for a competitive bodybuilder who's competing and is high level, like a Mr. Olympia, then that makes perfect sense. But what's happening is a guy is coming in to do one cycle, I want to get a beach body, and what you'll find, and this happened to me, is you get a psychological addiction to stuff, because you get a high off, like you're growing faster than ever, you're responding, you're getting amazing shape, then you come off and you just go.
It's really that noticeable.
It depends on what you're using. Back in the day, we used to use more stuff. Now they tend to not use as much stuff. So you would have dropped water. And what happens is a lot of guys is they stop stuff and their training goes down the hoot and their nutrition goes down. So then psychologically going, oh, it's the stuff. It's not, you haven't just been eating correctly and you haven't been training just as hard. You have to keep doing certain things. So it can become psychological where you never come off. Me personally, I did a lot of stuff throughout the years that I'll use TRT for the rest of my life, which means I need to use some synthetic enough to keep me in physiological levels. Well, I'm 48 next month. But I have a lot of guys now, 30s, 40s, never touched anything, never done anything with low testosterone. It's just getting worse and worse.
You reminded me there of a story that I used to know. Well, I still know him, Dr. Ramsey Ross here, and he's a performance medicine guy.
Okay.
He did a study a few years ago where they ran these cyclists through a drug protocol, performance enhancing.
Yeah.
Put one group, here's your training block, another group, here's your training block, plus here's how to self-administer whatever they're doing.
Wow.
And they put them through the whole process from start to finish, the tests, the lab, whatever, examples, everything. Fast forward to the end of this, through the study, the boys were like, this is the best stuff ever, like, I'm flying, I can't believe, blah, 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 blah. Text, bosh. Comes out to the end. The control group got a nice little training boost because they've just done a load of hardcore training, knowing that they're in competition with these other lads, so they better keep going. But the other lads have obviously gone through the roof with results. Turns out then the big reveal is they were on saline the whole time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
There was no steroids.
Yeah.
But they made them, he said they ran the whole thing from start to finish as if we showed them how to do it, we showed them the stuff, they pulled it out of the thing, they put it in the thing. The whole thing was a test on placebo.
Yeah.
And he was like, I can't. They were expecting to check the results.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting the text messages, the conversations in the middle going, I feel like Superman.
Yeah.
Just all of that in the head.
Yeah.
And his idea was that so that then leads him to not just think that placebo is a great thing, but for the lads who are on the stuff, they've got 3-4 times the boost because they're mental. They're like, we need to train harder because I'm on this.
Yeah.
I need to go now. I can't cheat because I'm on this. I can't do anything because I'm on this. And they really smashed their training. It was such an interesting thing that level of, you don't even actually need the drugs. You just need to
Yeah,
think you're on the drugs.
Exactly.
That's mental.
We know the placebo effect is huge. Like there's a very recent study on caffeine. They thought they were in caffeine, and they got caffeine is an ergogenic aid, helps performance, and the people were on not fake caffeine, and they were still performing better.
Yeah.
And we know, like, I'm very much into mind stuff now. I'm very much in the anti-aging mind stuff, and there's, like, for example, a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
called the book The Art of Placebo.
Yeah.
And like if you just read the full whack of that book, the start of that book, it gives you all examples, not just in the sporting industry,
Yeah.
but everything else. So we know
It's big in the pain world
and
as
even
well,
these
yeah.
fat burners, we know fat burners are absolutely useless, but people taking them. So when we go back to the very start of what we were talking about, psychological far outweighs anything. If someone believes something in their
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
they're going to surpass everybody. But that's trying to get them to believe it in the first place.
Well, Mark, look, I could talk to you forever on this because this is really interesting, but we've all got a busy Friday afternoon now to get off down the Anavar pub and get some points into this.
And a few glasses of wine.
Really
Yeah,
test out
so
our
I'm
livers.
actually I'm just not drinking anymore. I'm off that too.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
know.
god.
We've had our day. Now
Yeah.
it's longevity, like you said. It's
Yeah,
flip the switch.
100%.
So where can people get in touch with you, Mark, or follow you? Or
So I'm on Instagram, Mark Doherty. I just had to say that properly because it would be Doherty if I said. So Mark Doherty Coaching. On Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah. So the main part is Instagram. My email and my WhatsApp are all there as well. And that's it.
good. Anything you want to add, Tommy?
Thanks a million for coming, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Learned a lot there.
Yeah. If you're, we'll get you back in sometime again, and we'll go into some of that because there's a lot there that I would have loved to probe
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, there's a whole huge amount of stuff in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
We could talk about a lot.
Well, let's
100%.
look forward to it. Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you, mate.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Bye.